Hello, Internet. I am Corion, your witch in residence here on YouTube. Recently, I got a chance to watch Heartbreak Ridge again, which I haven't watched in a long period of time, but I absolutely love this movie. Part of the reason, of course, being that Gunny Highway, the sergeant that Clint Eastwood plays, is very similar to how my dad is in real life. A little less gung ho, but definitely that kind of attitude. And watching it again now that I'm a little older, it made me realize a couple of things about leadership, which I think is something I want to talk about in reference to this movie. So, with that in mind, let's get the obligatory ritual out of the way. If you haven't, as of yet, subscribe to my channel, please consider doing so. While you're here, I would also appreciate if you give a thumbs up and hit the bell icon for notifications as they come up. Additionally, if you guys could share it out, it really helps the channel grow. And at this point, anything you guys can do to help build a bigger community and show YouTube that this is the kind of content that you would like, I would really appreciate it. Now, with that obligatory ritual out of the way, let's talk about Heartbreak Ridge. So, the movie is set just before the American conflict in Grenada. And it stars Clint Eastwood's character, Gunny Highway, trying to get a reconnaissance Marine unit up to snuff and ready to go into potential conflict. He's been in various conflicts over the years. He's tough as nails, and he's dealing with new problems of a new generation of soldier. His style is definitely one I want to talk about in terms of leadership. But before I get there, I want to talk about the rest of the leadership chain, the Major Powers in the show and the Lieutenant Ring. Now, Major Powers has decided to write off the recon platoon and focus specifically on a small group of soldiers that he believes is an elite fighting force. People who are encouraged to be there, who want to be there, who respond to his tactics of fear and absolute precision to get the job done. Now, ruling by fear, or as I like to call it, a no trust environment in leadership, can work, but it definitely has its drawbacks. It's one, very Machiavellian. Two, you have to worry that somebody is always going to be gunning for you because they probably are. And the other major problem, of course, is if your people are afraid of you, they're never going to truly trust you either. Now, to me, this is a problem. I work in an environment where if I don't trust the people that I'm working with, and they don't respect me to try to lead them into where they need to go, I don't feel like the work would be meaningful, and I believe I would have a problem looking myself in the mirror. So, we have that first style. Then we have the second style, Lieutenant Ring. Now, Lieutenant Ring seems to be a very, very young officer, a very young lieutenant that more or less was put in charge of this recon unit because this isn't a place that he could possibly screw up. He's very much an academic. He's very much book smarts, and he attempts to lead by the book. Now, this can have its advantages too. It's a hybrid of a no trust and some trust kind of policy, but it lacks the experience of having to deal with people, and I think that's a bit of an issue. Then we come to Sergeant Highway, who leads the way that I was always taught was the appropriate way to lead. You lead by example, and you lead by gaining the trust of your people. In the film, Gunnery Highway, this cantankerous sergeant, a lovable curmudgeon, if you will, finds that one of his troopers has gone over the wall. Now, abandoning your post in the military is, of course, a very, very terrible thing to do, and it carries various risks, including possible jail time. But he's done this because he has a young family and the Marines aren't paying him sufficiently, so he had to get a job. Well, once Gunnery Highway figures out what's going on and figures out the problem, he then goes ahead and provides him some extra money to make up the difference so that this gentleman can return to what he really enjoys doing, which is being a Marine. I guarantee you that when he got back to the squad bay, this private told everyone what highway did. And I guarantee you that that private, that trooper, is now going to absolutely follow highway anywhere he needs to go, because he met him halfway. He realized the problem. He did what he could to help. He was basically a good human being. And he trusted the guy that even if he gave him the money to try to balance things out at home, that he would come back and he would be a model soldier from that point on. Ultimately, at the end of the day, by trusting your troopers and by going out a little bit on your own and doing what you can, he won the respect of his people to the point where his people would follow him into anything. Not because they had to, but because they believed in him to get them through it. Now, in my own life, I manage a small team and have managed several small teams in the past. Every time I go into that, I try to get to know the team members, figure out what they need, and get them to a point where they're going to succeed. And they're going to believe in me, and I'm going to believe in them. Because if I can't trust the people I'm working with, why are they even in the building? That trust, that building of trust as a leadership philosophy, I think is vital. I think if we look at other environments too, we can always point to the bosses or managers that led, but they led through fear. They led because if you didn't do what they say, you'd be fired. But I think we can also find those leaders that we can look at as an example of those who led because they inspired us to be better, because we believed in them. And because we believed in them, we were willing to give it our best for them, because they showed faith in us and we are showing that same faith back. And I'm not necessarily talking about faith in like a divine or anything like that. I'm talking about faith in your fellow man, okay? Which I think sometimes is a lot more important, okay? It's easy not to trust, but when somebody builds that bridge to trust, meeting them halfway is so vital. So I any potential leaders in the group out there, I 100% advise you to reach out and trust the people around you and give it a try. Just make the effort to show them that you're willing to give them the opportunity to succeed and that you want to help them succeed. True leadership is service to your team. It's not for self-grandizing. Self-grandizing, believe it or not, is actually a byproduct of leading a team properly. Because, to be perfectly honest, if you lead a team well and that team succeeds well in whatever metrics that the team can be measured by, that'll reflect on you. So by trusting them, by believing in them, by inspiring them to be greater than what they are, you are helping yourself, but you're also helping them as well. Because if they're exceeding expectations, if they're inspired to go beyond what they would normally do, then they will succeed as well. And we can build an environment of trust, an environment of success for everybody. This, to me, is the basic concepts of leadership. Now, there are times when you have to come down and be a heavy, be a major powers or major, hard person. And those are times that should be used sparingly. Okay. When working with a team, they should always see the velvet glove. But when things are bad and discipline has to be meted out, they should see the mauled fist as needed, but only when it's needed. After that, the velvet glove should immediately go back on. People should be treated with respect. People should be treated reasonably until there's a reason to not do so. The reason being, the reason why you show that strength and that respect in those sort of measures is so that people understand that there are consequences to their actions. But in general, if everyone is willing to work as a team, then the teamwork makes the dream work, for lack of a better term. Okay? That is where I actually think Lieutenant Ring was on his way to become a really good leader, by getting an opportunity to see both command styles and becoming a leader that meshes those two things in measures that he needs. So what I'm going to suggest for homework today is I would like anybody who has an opportunity in their real life to be a leader to try to implement that, to try to implement a philosophy of trust and see where it gets you. Now, this isn't going to be one you can report on right away, but I think that will be an interesting piece of homework to try. In the comments, though, what I would ask you to comment about is leaders that have inspired you, that have made you want to be greater than what you are. This could be a political hero, although let's keep the actual conversation of politics to a minimum. I know that these days political leaders can be very contentious. So while we can respect a leader's style, we may not all get along with a political leader. So let's please try to keep that in mind and keep it respectful. But it could also be a leader from your private life. It could be a leader that you've just seen on TV that had a leadership style that you think is very impressive and that you want to emulate. Believe it or not, one of my favorite leaders is actually John Taffer from a show called Bar Rescue. I really like his leadership style. I really like that he will come in and he will, tear structures down with a lot of force if he has to. But he also does the effort to build them back up to be stable to last. And he trusts his people once they have proven that they can, in fact, be trusted. So that's mine. I'd love to hear yours. I'd also love it if you guys would check out this movie because I don't believe in the modern day it's gotten the viewership it deserves. It's definitely a classic, I believe 70s or 80s movie, somewhere in there. It's a great run. I do absolutely recommend it, especially for my very close friends out there who happen to be Marines, because I think they would enjoy it as well. I think they've probably served with at least one or two of the people in this movie. So with that in mind, I'm going to close off the video just to let you guys know. The last transmission from the Rogue Council was a stunning success, and you guys made that possible. I really appreciate that. I want you guys to know how much I appreciate and respect that you guys made that possible. So I'm going to ask that we keep that up. We're going to keep going with this Rogue Council because you guys seem to like it, and I appreciate that. I'm also working towards a little bit of a celebration for you guys, hopefully. Sometime soon we're going to do a little bit of a just to chill out and relax and have a good time kind of stream some point down the road. But yeah, with all that in mind, I think we're going to close off the video. So merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, guys.